What's up, guys? So this is FLF episode 2, potentially episode 3. We'll get back to you on that one. All right, so now that everyone's settled, we are back here to talk about our favorite cryptids and weird shit that we found on the internet recently.
And for no
Uh,
reason at all, we're wearing the same clothes.
exactly the
Didn't
same clothes. To be fair, I buy the exact same pack of t-shirts, and I bought 3 of them. So I am on rotation of the same black, gray, and red t-shirts. Little fun fact about my life there. So Dan, you have got some information about some creepy eyed monsters or something like that. So how about you lead us in with that?
All right, so that's part of it. I'm going to be talking about shadow people today, and just some different ways they. God damn it! As you can tell, I'm
as soon as
outside.
you
It's
started
fuzz.
talking,
Let's tease
They're coming for me.
it.
So
As it turns out, those weird people throwing fruit at you from the outside are actually there, and they're
mhm,
vagrants. And we can't have
mhm.
vagrants in our society, so the cops are there to take care of
It wasn't gang stalking. They're here. But anyways,
them.
shadow people. That's what I'm going to talk about today. We were talking about it last week a little bit. You know how I've had personal experiences with it. I talked to some people online about it and got their feedback on the shadow people. Of course, everybody. I kind of had to throw in ghosts with it a little bit too, which I wanted to be a separate subject, but it does kind of tie in. And even still with shadow people, nobody really knows exactly what we're dealing with there. There's like several different theories and they all kind of tie in together. But yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and get into it. Shadow people tends to affect people in during sleep paralysis, which is where I see them. Um, they when you're in sleep paralysis, the kind of feeling you're dealing with is you're laying in bed. It's kind of similar to a lucid dream where like you're awake but your body can't move. A lot of people think that it has to do with the amount of content of caffeine that you drink at night before you go to sleep, or just being sleep deprived. Um, they
That makes a
also
lot of
people
sense.
people notice them again, like what we were talking about camping. People have had them happen while they're camping, and usually they're seen out of your peripheral vision. Like you'll just kind of be looking around and you'll notice something and then you'll look that way and it'll disappear. But there are like after a while people see full on visions of them. There are like quite a few different types. They got the guy with the hat man. There's a it's like he wears like a bowler type hat or fedora or something very stylish. And with that one, people are wondering if so some people think they're ghosts, some people think they're demons, some people think they're interdimensional beings, and some people have even thought if they're aliens or if they're the men in black, which, you know, if you ever heard about the men in black, they have the guys that have the suits with the hats. So there was one particular guy that was doing research into aliens, and his experience with the hat man, the guy came in and basically like came up to him and started talking like, "Don't you be doing that alien research? You better stop. You better not. You better not." And so he's wondering if maybe the men in black have found a way to like form into this dark entity and just go in and scare people like that to keep them
like
from
a
looking into.
form of their they were doing tests where they would like project themselves into different places. They were using psychics and
The
they were
CIA.
with remote viewing. That's what I'm trying to think of. Remote viewing. They were trying to say that they could project themselves to other areas and spy. And then they would come back and write down everything that they heard when they were in these remote viewing.
Yeah, the CIA, right? That's the ones that
Yes.
were behind that. And I kind of wonder, like, there's a way all this ties in together because the CIA at one point in time, where they hired these psychics, like you said, I think it was called Operation Stargate, where they hired these psychics to come in and try to find a way to talk to these interdimensional beings. And then what throws me off with this is they had that, but at the same time, the CIA also had a group of people that were trying to discredit the people they were trying to do the Operation Stargate with.
Oh, the
It's like,
CIA is constantly up to some pure fuckery.
it,
Now,
it,
is this the same? Like, is this the same CIA? Is this like acid CIA, or is this okay? Same general time frame. Then, yeah, that
and I'm
doesn't
wondering,
surprise me at all.
and see, that's another thing too that I'm wondering about is they had the experiments where they were drugging guys with they were going to get serviced by hookers, and one of the shadow people is a woman that has been claimed to be sitting on people's chests, and the woman tries to fornicate with them, and I'm wondering if like these CIA agents are like projecting themselves in the same way, but nevertheless.
So that where they were feeding acid to hookers and people seeking hookers is actually crazier than you probably think it is.
Really?
I listened to some reporting by a journalist named Robert Evans. Great. He's got a show, Behind the Bastards, the worst year ever. He's a war correspondent, and what he's done actually a lot of phenomenal work regarding like the rise in hate crimes in the United States and like ISIS, like watching them on the internet and how they use memes to build a following and propaganda stuff. But in his research into the CIA thing, there was like one guy who was in charge of it, and he got his job, I want to say through nepotism, whatever it is. So they just pretty much gave a dude a blank check to go drug people, and he was no one was safe. Everyone in like the immediate area around San Francisco was getting random doses of LSD. But the dude running the thing in his hooker house, what he had is a toilet built into his desk. So like his chair had a toilet, so he didn't have to leave, and he would watch people like a peep show while he's sitting on a toilet desk or toilet chairs thrown. And
Okay.
there's a story about this. So he there was a former CIA agent who like maybe he was, I don't remember what, one of the letter guys, right? He out of nowhere went and just robbed a bank and punched his wife. Like it was something like it was like, oh no, he robbed a coffee store and punched the barista. And like it was just out of nowhere. And in hindsight, he's like, was I drugged? I mean, this is a guy who never had great. He's a government agent, great government agent, by all accounts, a good person. And then just one day, he felt funny. And then it was only after they released the CIA papers that he was like, oh, wow, maybe I was drugged and this ruined my whole life. And now I've been depressed the last 20 years because this guy
right.
just for shits and gigs put acid in my water. So, but that's
supposedly Woody Harrelson's dad was a CIA operative, but they put him in prison and they said that he was a murderer.
Yeah, they pinned him as a killer.
Yeah, I mean, he claims that he was the second gunman at the grassy knoll.
Really?
Woody here like
the actor,
like White Men Can't Jump.
Okay, not. I was thinking of Woody Harrelson, like the weird director, whatever his name is. But I know Zombieland. White Men Can't Jump. Yeah, great. He was in that Bill Murray movie about bowling, whatever that movie's called, Kingpin or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
But dude, if your dad just claims to be the second shooter, like I wouldn't volunteer that information ever in my entire life. Like if I murdered somebody for the government, if I murdered the president, zero chance I'm ever talking about that ever again. I'm not telling a soul.
It makes a lot more sense than the person that they claimed it.
It does, yeah. And that person was a crazy man, and
and he couldn't shoot.
And he was a Marine. What are you talking about? He couldn't shoot.
Man, he was no marksman.
Say what you want, man.
If he was a marksman, he would have shot them on the way down the road. He would not have waited till they turned the corner and was driving away.
Oh, I'm not going to talk about the logistics
Well,
of shooting a president, John. I'm just telling you, like, that man.
the bullet was magic, and magic exists, so there was
Right.
nothing to worry about there.
It's a hell of a shot. It's a hell of a shot. That's all I got to say.
We're talking about demons right now. Of course, magic
Oh yeah.
exists.
Back on track.
Says never suffer a witch. You can throw stones at them too. Yay, Bible talk.
With the shadow people, so let's say that it's not aliens, it's not the CIA. A lot of people think that it's interdimensional beings, which I was wondering, like when it comes to the translation of the Bible and everything, since you just mentioned that, if maybe these entities at some point in time were talking to people in like 400 years ago, and we're like, we're interdimensional beings, and they were just like, demons, it's demons. And that's just where that came about, you know?
That makes sense.
Dimensional demons, bada bing, bada boom. You know, we figured it out here right on the show.
It's hard to say that, but I will. So there's something I did want to bring up while we're talking about it, because I did do a little bit of research. I forgot about it in the past week. So there is a story of when people were moving into the Americas. Settlers in California reported seeing, specifically Spanish settlers in California, reported seeing the Dark Watchers, which is the actual term is like Los Vigilantes Oscuros. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it the right way. They reported seeing that around their camp. And so even in non-biblical terms, you know, there's something like that going on in the Americas, because that's same general thing. If I'm not mistaken, I won't say that it dates back, but that's like a Bigfoot thing, like a tie-in somewhere in that research I did. I don't have it in front of me.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the shadow people going across continents and in different spots is throughout history. And it's fascinating. That's something that's a commonality.
That's another thing too, is like they're everywhere. Every culture has a story about them. Like, I mean, it goes back to the jinn, you know, where the genie comes from, which if you met anybody from the Arabia area, like if you go to talk about genies and you try to make a joke out of it, they'll be like, this is serious. Like we take that very serious. And that's something that kind of goes in between all of this with the jinn, the interdimensional beings, and even demons, and people that are experience trips on DMT, is they say there's an entity that likes to play pranks on people. And that's also one of the types of shadow people, is they think it's like, I wouldn't say so much making a prank on them, but like
low-key.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, they had the woman I was mentioning that'll sit on people's chests and like try to have relations with them.
That was a fit. You know, you usually do the same exact voice whenever you're doing impersonations, but that was a great Clinton.
I feel your pain.
That came off. That tickled me there.
It was a shadow woman. She took advantage of me in my sleep.
Genies are interesting because I've only seen them depicted two ways. One's Aladdin, which that genie is fucking awesome. And the other one is like, it's what I'm assuming is closer to the reality of genies. Where they are historically is like, you wish you were the richest person on the planet, and so they just eliminate all the people who are richer than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some weird trick to it or something like that.
The trickster.
Yeah, and then I guess it was Bedazzled had genie rules too in that movie, that Brendan Fraser movie, where she was the devil and she gave him 3 wishes, but she was just fucking with him the entire time.
Yeah, with that hot British chick from back in the day.
Yeah, Elizabeth Hurley, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
he asked to be like a basketball player or something like that, and he was just like, she gave him a small dick, like a comically small penis. So like he took his pants off for the chick, and she laughs at him and leaves.
Well, another one of these types of shadow people, he wouldn't have this problem. They call the giant. He's usually seen about 7 to 9 feet tall, he's the one that they'll usually see lurking in the doorways. A lot of people notice that the shadow people will either try to stand behind laundry or behind something in the room. And then my personal favorite is run to the closet man. So they'll
Run
see
to
him
the
kind of,
closet man.
yeah, that's what I'm calling him. But there's a type that he'll be like in your peripheral vision, kind of moving around, I don't know, playing with your socks and stuff. And then you'll look at him and then he'll be like, and then he'll run to your closet. And that's just what he does. Which I don't get. I don't get it.
Makes sense
because
to me. Like, you're an interdimensional demon. You've been haunting people forever. At some point, you just want to fuck with people, right?
Yeah. So, but they talk about how they can walk through walls, and yet this one type just runs to the closet every single time. That's what he does. But so the type of people that usually are affected by them are people that are on drugs, heavily medicated, people taking medications for, like, you nailed it on the head the other day, for schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, multiple personality disorders, anybody's on any kind of medications like that, sleep deprived people, and people on a DMT trip, weak-willed or paranoid people usually get affected by them, children, and they think that a lot of times that maybe these shadow people might be their imaginary friends. Orbs are usually seen floating around from occasion whenever shadow people are around. And another thing that's typical about them is we've all seen shadows in our rooms and stuff. Usually, like, there's still a little bit of transparency to them. These entities are seen as having no light reflection at all through them. It's almost like, have you ever heard of Vanta Black? Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
So Vanta Black is like the complete absence of color whatsoever.
Oh,
And
yeah.
That's why, like, when they see these figures that look like humans, or they can tell a difference. Like, it's not just like a shadow of like your laundry basket or something. Like, they're seeing a person and it is just like complete absence of color. Mm-hmm. And then it moves or something like that. And with them, it gets worse the more that you acknowledge it, is what they say. Or the more that I guess they feed off of human emotions, especially negative human emotions. And so the more that the people interact with them and realize it, the more it starts causing things. And it can even lead to, like, things getting misplaced in your house, noises, things like that. Children, like I said, are usually affected more than people, like adults, I should say. And also, they tell you not to astral project ever, which is like an out-of-body experience for anybody that doesn't know what astral projection is. Because once you do that, you're opening yourself as a channel or a vessel for these beings to come in and overtake you.
So we have to astral project at this point, right? Like, we have to do this. You just committed us to doing this, right? On air.
I'm not gonna mess with that. See, I had this girl that I dated. It was like about 2 years ago, and she was always telling me that she had some kind of like spirit attached to her or something like that. And the first time we spoke on the phone, after we got off the phone that night, I had a dream where I felt like I was floating. And Dan was talking about the old lady, the witch, shadow person. I felt like she was on my chest that night trying to choke me, and I couldn't breathe. And the more I tried to breathe that night, I couldn't. And eventually I woke myself up, and I was paranoid. I could not go back to sleep. But yeah, and I called her the next day and I told her about it. And when I described I experienced, she was like, "That happens to me 3 or 4 times a week." So I'm good on that.
So how did the second date go?
You already did astral projection. What's next?
Yeah, you're already in it, right? Like, that's
you
have to go on that second date.
I've seen shadow people for the better part of my life. Like, there was another time that I was kind of like, I was not asleep, wasn't awake. I couldn't move, basically. But I seen somebody standing in the doorway, and it looked like they were taking pictures because I kept seeing a bright flash over and over and over again. And the person was just standing in the doorway, and they weren't exactly like a shadow, but I couldn't make out features.
Right.
So,
that's something else too. Is people said they can't usually make out features, but some people have, and they said their face can shapeshift. They'll usually see like glowing red eyes. Another thing that can cause it is if you use Ouija boards and you try to contact the spirits in the spirit realm, you don't know what you're inviting in when you do that. And even still, if you're using like a Parker Brothers version of a Ouija board, it can still let something in. And I talked to some people about that kind of stuff. I'll get into that in a little bit. Also, another little fun fact is both Edison and Tesla both were trying to get into contacting the dead, and they both tried in making inventions for channeling spirits and contacting the dead. And I wonder if the reason why, like, you see ghosts, you never see ghosts from like the modern era. You never see them doing the Macarena or anything like that. I know in the 1890s, that's when people were really into like the occult and channeling the dead. Do you think maybe that's why we always see ghosts from like the 1860s and the 1890s?
You know, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't. I'm hard pressed to come to that conclusion that they exist. I think that people see what they want to see. And I believe that there has been enough media that people tend to think like, okay, well, this is the haunted mansion, right? It was haunted from the 40s when there was a gold rush. And so they think that, oh, you know, this maid's living a terrible life, whatever it is. And so that's where they're at.
Man, I've had way too many instances of things that I can't explain. But I mean, like, so what do you think that it could be? Like, do you think it's just a mass hallucination that everybody's seeing? Or people going into these dream states when our body releases DMT and serotonin?
I don't know how to explain it. Now people seeing ghosts, people being scared, people being freaked out, and being able to associate that fear with something that other people have experienced is what I think to be the most likely culprit. You know, I know that I have been in a situation where I felt like I was seeing ghosts, but I was also drinking very heavily at the time.
Right.
And I have been around somebody who said that they were seeing a ghost, and I know that was when my grandmother was staring at a tree. I was a kid. I was very young when this was happening. I was just old enough to remember things. So I remember her staring at a tree. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, there's something wrong with that tree." And just like, okay, well, she's having a moment. And I just, you know, tra-la-la along, did something different. But I think that the 1890s, that I want to say that was also, I could be wrong. I probably looked this up. I want to say that's when there was a spiritual movement going on, if I'm not mistaken. Now that was that the same time frame those twins were walking around talking about like being ghosts, or am I off by a couple hundred years? I don't know.
That's possible.
Because that was 18. I mean,
we're talking like anywhere between the 1850s and the early 1900s. People
ending slavery was in that time frame. Like there was a whole lot going on there. And so I could see like if anyone's going to be coming back like a tortured soul, it's going to be a fucking, you know, someone who had the shit beat out of them their entire lives. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to say, John, where are you at on the ghost situation? Like, why do you think?
Like I said, like the only time that I've seen anything, I was in the midst of Twilight, and I'm pretty sure that it has some. It's when you're in that sleep paralysis, you feel like you're awake, but I don't believe that you are. because it's almost like the dream within a dream scenario. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And anytime I've experienced that, it's like I would know it's like I could see my surroundings and I could see the room that I was in, but it always seemed like something was off. You know what I mean? Like say I'm in the living room and the bookshelf isn't there, or I would be like, there was even another time where I felt like I was in a room, like I felt like I was in a room, but I was actually in the dream in another room. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of feel like sleep has a lot to do with it, and like maybe it's just a different level of sleep where you're more aware, or something in your surroundings is causing your attention to be in that area where you're at. If that
Well, I
makes
think
sense.
that the caffeine aspect of that is
Too
a
Could
much.
be.
big element. You know what I mean? Like, so like, okay, so your brain's shut off, but the caffeine's still keeping your body going, right? So
Right.
you have that moment where you're like, you're not, your body's like, your brain's fighting you to go to sleep,
Exactly.
and you just end up somewhere familiar. And I think
Because
that
I had
that
this,
probably has a lot to do with it.
yeah, I had this dream, like it was a sleep paralysis dream, and I was on the couch facing the wall, and I could see the front door open and somebody walking in the front door, but there's no way from the way I was sleeping that I could see that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
So
see what you're
it was,
saying.
yeah, it might have just been a projection of what was on my mind, or you know what I mean, the conclusions your brain makes while you're sleeping.
Well, the
So
thing about
maybe these people swear that they saw these things and it was very real, because in the sleep paralysis, it feels real. You feel
yeah,
like you're awake, you're wide awake. And
yeah.
to them, these things are real, and what's going on is real. And there's a feeling of dread, there's a feeling of being threatened, but also it could be explained by evolution. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we come from people who, there was these real living nightmares around them all the time. They had saber-toothed tigers, and they had, you know, lions and mountain lions and bears all around them. So maybe they couldn't fall into a complete sleep because of the imminent threat that was around them. Maybe this is something in our evolution that is like a sleep state, that we're not all the way asleep and we can still see our surroundings. It would make a lot of sense. You know what I'm saying?
Well, to me, it also depends on exactly what we're talking about here. Because, like, again, like I was talking to people and they were mixing up shadow people and ghosts. With ghosts, like, to me, we have the ability to take pictures of a moment in time forever. And I wholeheartedly think it's possible for nature itself to do the same thing. If we possess the ability to do that, nature should as well. Maybe we're talking about ghosts. It's just a period of time that's just been captured and it just replays itself. But as for shadow people, I mean, maybe there is some kind of thing that's crossing over. It's a parallel universe and it's something existing at the same time as us. It is weird that everybody from seeing demons to believing it's aliens to DMT trips have all seen the same thing collectively. It's always the same things every time. And even if it is just the DMT reaction, because that's your body releases whenever you go into a sleep state, it's just really weird. It's always the same things. Now, everybody I've talked to about this has told me, do not mess with it. Don't let it in. Don't let it around you. As for like the things like falling off and noises being happening around you, maybe that could be from your mind, but I don't know. I mean, like a lot of it can be written off by the wind and noises like that, but like keys falling off, like at Ashley's or at her house, like the things that I've seen, I can't explain. Like we're talking about like the baby monitors going off, where the time the bucket flew off the wall and then changed directions and hit her. I'm the most skeptic person there is, but I cannot explain why that happened at all. And it's just, I don't know how to feel about that. I want to come at it with science. It's just there's too many instances that I've seen with my own eyes, not asleep, that I have to question what's really going on there.
You know what won't question what's going on inside your mind, Dan? The products and services that sponsor the show. That's my first ad transition there. Anyways, back to things. So I just looked up ghost stories, like the earliest ghost stories and things like that. And so far, what it says, this is the History Channel. I'm sorry, history.com from the History Channel. It says in the first century AD, the great Roman author and statesman Pliny, I don't know how to pronounce that, the younger, Pliny the Younger, that's his name, I guess. Good for him. It's a good title. Recorded the first notable ghost stories in his letters, which became famous for their vivid account of life during the heyday of the Roman Empire. So this dude's talking about old man with a long beard, rattling chains, and it was haunting his house in Athens. So that's pretty typical of a ghost story, right? Like you think about the Scrooge, the ghost with the chains showing up out of nowhere, and that goes back to the Roman times. So they have been around for a long time, and I think that it is hard to explain why so many people have said that, but I think there can be a reason behind it. I just don't think I'm intelligent enough to articulate it.
I kind of feel like, if somebody says they saw a ghost and they're like, well, what they're wearing, a t-shirt and jeans, it's not as believable in our culture as if you said, oh, they were wearing a period dress and, you know what I'm saying, they had a ribbon in their hair. Maybe that has a lot to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it's easier for them to imagine something from the past than it is, you know what I mean?
There's something that's there. Now, you did say something earlier about shadow people being the product of what the CIA is projecting themselves in a situation, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder, it's just something that popped in my mind is when does technology meet like our fables, our stories like that? When do we reach that point? Because I think eventually, is it holograms where we just pop up like, hey, what's up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I guess they tried to do that some years ago, but I guess it didn't work out.
Well, they've been able to do that with like back in the day with plays. In old movies with using mirrors, turn it like certain degrees, angles. They could make it look like somebody was standing there on stage. So they've been able to do that kind of stuff for a while. And I do know that they were working on technologies where they had like certain audio they would emanate and it could cause hallucinations. So maybe it is possible for that. But I don't understand also why the CIA would look into all that kind of stuff, then at the same time start looking into disinformation against that same research they were doing.
That's just because they're bastards. They don't want people to know that they're doing it. Like, oh, hey, we figured it out, but here's everything that says we didn't.
And also the Catholic Church and their big extensive 55-mile library they've collected like all the books on channeling these shadow entities and demons and ghosts and things like that too, and the dead. It's like, I mean, why are they collecting all that stuff? Like, if it really doesn't exist, why does it matter? Although I will say with the church, they probably do wholeheartedly believe in this stuff. They kind of have vested interest in that.
The Catholic Church is a monster, and a lot of good things for the world. There's a lot of nasty, silly shit that they've done. But I would think, in my initial reaction, what you just said is they are taking that because it can be misinterpreted as real, and they don't want anything that dissents from whatever they're preaching at the time.
Well, that's where also we were talking about people getting mixed up between, demons and shadow people and ghosts. Because, they are two different things. Like, I mean,
do you believe that they could be some kind of interdimensional being? Like, do you think that's possible, John?
Absolutely.
There's that is something that should, if other dimensions do exist, that there you go. Now I did enjoy if ghosts are real, the idea that nature has taken just a snapshot in time,
like residual.
That to me is the most believable, other than oh well, today our soul decided not to follow the light.
Yeah,
that's just,
and maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is just a glimpse into another part of time. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's so many anomalies and so many things that happen, and that's more believable than anything. Like, oh wow, I just seen into a past time, than to say that I definitely don't want to be one of those people that is caught doing the same thing for all eternity. I don't know about you guys, but
no, not at all. Not at all. If I'm going to be a ghost, I'm going to be a poltergeist. I'm haunting the fuck out of somebody, and that's just how I'm going to spend the first part of my eternity. After that, I'm going Casper. I'll be nice. I'll help you find your keys that you lost.
Also, a lot of people claim having a sense of and a feeling of dread around all this kind of stuff too, and like a feeling of they need to get out of there. What necessarily causes that feeling? Because it could also be in an area where they're completely calm, and then all of a sudden they get this feeling come over them of dread and sorrow, and that whatever it is, it wants them out. Is it just a change in pressure, you think?
I think that's just crippling depression. Well, I think everyone deals with that, and I think I'm just sane enough to go, well, maybe I should talk to my therapist. I'm not haunted. That's how I look at that, and I think that a lot of people aren't in that headspace to admit that maybe they are dealing with depression.
Now, the two different instances where I had sleep paralysis really bad one was in a house that the one where we had all the happenings that I couldn't explain. And then the second time, I think I talked about it on the last episode, was when I was dating that girl that was into the occult. Maybe it's because I had to share my bed with somebody, and that's why I just wasn't getting good sleep. But that's when the sleep paralysis really just ramped up for me. Now, I never saw the shadow figures, but I did have the one instance where it felt like I got pulled off the bed and spun around in my bedroom really fast.
Jesus Christ. I had no idea that happened to you, Dan.
Yeah. People have claimed to have a feeling of levitation, and people have felt a weight on their chest where it feels like they can't breathe. Other than that, my sleep paralysis is just me trying to wake myself up and then letting out that faint little scream hey, help me. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I guess there's some rationality to explaining a lot of this. But interdimensional beings, I think that it is absolutely possible. There's a lot of space out there in space, and a lot of stuff we don't understand.
We're also incredibly stupid. We don't know how things are. We don't know why things work the way they do. We had a guy who had a bad haircut, build a bomb, just tell us, hey, maybe there's gravity out there. We don't know. And he said, well, sure, it makes sense to me. And that's how Einstein's origin story. I think the end. That's the end of the story there. So, John, I think that we should transition into what you were bringing to the table today. Something about no-name Germans.
No Germans.
No.
That's what we're gonna call them for the. I mean, I feel like it's the best way to describe them. But we touched on it a little bit last week with the South American town of oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Do you remember how to say it? Candido Godoy. Candido Godoy. Candido Godoy.
Candido Godoy.
Candido Godoy.
Candido Godoy. Okay.
Rio Grande do Sul.
Oh boy.
Which is Argentina and Brazil. You know what I'm saying? And so in there, 1 in 5 of every birth is a set of twins. And we talked on that a little bit last week. And with the rest of the world, 1 in 89 is twins. So, I mean, that's just, And so, 8 out of every 17 sets of twins in Candido Godoy is an identical twin as well. But the thing is it's a settled, the city is settled and has a large population of German descent, which was something that, you know what I mean, when you check into it. And they said that they first started to notice it at the end of the 40s, and it really, really started to boom between the 1960s and the 1990s. And during this time, supposedly, they said that, I had this guy's name written down too. Joseph Mengele. Mengele.
Probably top 5 worst people to ever live.
Yep.
Yeah, well, after the war, he sought asylum in Argentina, and there is proof that he lived in Candido Godoy. But the thing is because of all the trials that he did on twins when he was at Auschwitz, I wonder if that's the reason he was attracted to this town, or if maybe, because they had this anomaly with the twins, or if maybe the boom really started to happen after he came there, because a lot of his research in Auschwitz, he had 3 camps. One camp was, of course, the labor camp, which everybody knows. They had the forced labor camp. Anybody who was healthy and of working age went to that camp. The children and the elderly and the mothers of the children were sent to the other camp, and that
they
was
were treated better.
That was the Dubai camp. No.
Oh, wait.
So
okay.
Basically, when the mothers would walk up with their children, he would ask them, if the children resembled, he would ask them if they were twins, and the mother would have to answer, and she would either say yes or no. And he would be like, whenever he heard they were twins, the mother would be like, well, is this a good thing? And he'd be like, oh, yes, it's very good. And he would take the twins into custody and take them into the third camp that was away from all of the other ones. And, of course, the mothers and, like I said, the elderly and the children that weren't twins were taken to the second camp, which was the gas chamber camp.
Yeah.
Because the way they looked at it was they didn't have the means to take care of children, and they didn't think that it was right for the mothers to have their children taken away where they were going to gas these children. So they made sure that their mothers were there to see them die, which is a horrible, horrible thing. We're talking about a horrible man.
The one thing that really was bad about it is he made sure to have a good rapport with the children. They got to the point where they were calling him Uncle Joseph, and like he would bring them candy and treats. Like when I was talking about them having, they would get better food, but then they would get like the worst treatment out of all of them.
it's just such a horrible time in the world. I don't understand how such things could happen.
I
But
think better food is enough reason.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's all shit. At least this one little bit right there. I know.
now that we're past the darkest part, I just wanted to say that in this twin camp, some of the tests were they used the twins because one of his ideas were that they were so closely in tune with their bodies and everything that you could do experiment on one and use the other one as a control, and he would give them all these different serums and concoctions that he had made. Sometimes he would infect them with illnesses, and then it got to the point there he was inseminating them to try to see if he could produce more twins or how the genetics worked, and he was trying to make his master race. So that was something that when I was doing my research on this, I never could get past that, whether he was attracted to this place in South America because there were so many twins, or if because he wanted to further his research, and that's whenever the twins really started to boom in this town. But they said that after he came there, the populations really started to explode, and in a half square mile, 1.5 square mile area, there was as many as 44 pairs of twins. And if you do the math, that's 1,000% above the global average of anywhere else in the world. That's of the 6,000 inhabitants in the city, there was over 400 different sets of twins, which is, I mean, that is an astronomical number. And you ask some of the locals to give their theories, and some of their explanation. Some people, they just were like, well, God is good. That's why we have so many twins here. They would say that it was in their diet or in the water they drank, which they've done tests, and none of that is true. And then others will say that there is an extraterrestrial influence. But none of them, in the thing is with their German heritage, none of them would say that it was because of him or doing any testing. So, I mean, it's going to remain an anomaly as far as that goes. But there is another city that contends with it, and it is Kodinia, India.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has a population that has over 400 pairs of twins at this time right now. And also there in the 1940s, between the 1940s and the 1990s is when they saw a population boom as well in twins. So it seems to be like right there after the end of the World War, these towns' twin populations just really soared.
Well, with the Schnitzel boys, they were trying to use the occult, and they were trying to find artifacts all over the world, including in India, where they were trying to prove that they were responsible for all of the innovations of mankind throughout the world, that their group went around and settled all these different areas. They believed that they were Native Americans, and they also believed that they were the Celts, and they believed that they were responsible for India as well, and they were in that area prior to them, which I don't think that Mingle seeked asylum. I think he was actually just hiding out because they were coming for him. In fact, I think he said he lived in fear the whole time. But I wonder if that could be the case, that he'd set up in that area trying to do the same thing with twins there as well, because I know they were known to be in India.
Real quick, so you said
they adopted the swastika from the India culture because they were so fascinated in how they had stood up against Britain that they adopted so many things from the culture of India. Like,
well, swastikas it can be argued well, I shouldn't say argued. It is one of the oldest complex symbols that humans have ever had. And I believe it actually comes from like when you break a mammoth tusk open, it looks like a swastika. The flaking looks like a swastika. And so it's gone on because you can find old stuff. And the no Germans were really good at being evil because they ruined a symbol that was everywhere. Like you can find there was the Boy Scouts. It was the Order of the White Swastika. That was a thing, and like there was like they held on to it for too long. Like they weren't going to let the Nazis ruin it for them. But you got a bunch of guys, a bunch of kids walking around in brown uniforms with swastikas on them. And back in the day, America wasn't cool with that shit. So they had like rocks thrown at them and stuff. So like,
well, it's a symbol of tranquility and love, and it's just. It sucks that it was desecrated. You know what I'm saying?
So they did that with all kinds of symbols.
I missed something you said earlier, Dan. I just want to just clarify this for myself before I say anything. So you said that the Nazis went to India because they were claiming that they founded everything, or is that like the Indian population claimed that they founded things?
The Schnazis believed that they were responsible for a lot of the major kingdoms and empires around the world.
Okay, I just wanted to because I was saying, because like the major thing behind them is that the Aryans were they were the reason things exist. So I was just going to like, hey, before we get, let's not put out too bad information on that. Like those people really are fucking nut jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why they were collecting those artifacts and the relics and everything, as they felt like it was going to prove that they were responsible for all this. And at the same time, they were all into the occult, and they thought collecting all these religious relics and things like that would give them the power to take over again.
And that's how we get Indiana Jones. So,
right?
Yeah.
So I did find an alternate theory for why there are so many twins in these small towns and villages, and it's called the genetic founder effect.
Yep, I was going to bring that up.
Yep. And that's whenever there is only a certain amount of genes in the gene pool without an introduction of new genetics, there'll be all types of anomalies. You know what I mean? It's almost like the Amish, how they marry into their culture. There's no outsiders coming in. You know what I'm saying? They marry within the community. So
in the research, I pulled up I'm not going to butcher this dude's name, but this appeared in it's a scientific journal. I don't have it right in front of me. It's just through the school database that I have, but they pulled data from back all the way to 1927, and there was a high number of twins there back then too. And what I think, after World War, the whole generation is called baby boomers. People were fucking when they got back from the war.
Exactly.
So you know what I mean? Now, home dude going to South America, maybe it was the wrong crowd that was fucking back then, the Nazis and all that shit. But that to me explains that. It'd be great though. That'd be such a I just couldn't wrap my head around saying like, well, my brother, Dan here, we're the results of a Nazi experiment.
I mean, that's why the more I looked into it, I couldn't figure out if maybe he was just attracted to that area because of this anomaly. You know what I'm saying?
I think he might have been attracted to that area just because they had to have a backup plan, right? Like you don't get to be that powerful without knowing somebody who's like, hey man, dude, shit's getting hot. I gotta go somewhere, it's not like it's
why not go somewhere where there's this. Let's see, what do we have here? We have Germans and we have twins. That's the exact thing I'm interested in.
Twins,
they have
Let's go
towns. They have towns in South America that actually praise their artifacts and the swastikas and things like that, and they don't see anything wrong with it. They're like, this is the culture we came from. This is what we are.
It was the swastika was a religious symbol to several different like Native American tribes, and there was actually I don't know the name of the tribe. Information's loose in my mind, but they gave a statement of solidarity saying we will no longer be using this in our practice because of the amount of hate that's been taken. It's this symbol is a hate symbol. And there was a mountain in Oregon that had a swastika mountain. That was the name of the mountain up until like a couple of years ago. Oregon's notorious for its Nazi problem. They just happened to have a mountain named Swastika Mountain.
Talk about ruining everything.
Dirty bastards.
Right. While I was on my whole genetic search, I also came across so 200,000 years ago, our DNA can be linked up to a single male and a single female. And the chromosome is called chromosome number 2. And it is the chromosome that makes us different from any other of our primate ancestors. And it also gives us the ability to adapt so well to life here on Earth. And the more they looked into our DNA makeup, the more they found that it looks like there's evidence of tampering. And especially on the chromosome, which causes us to age, it looks like when they looked into it, it looks like that there is a limitation put on that strand in our DNA that only allows us to live for 80 years or so. And if you know what I mean, if you know your biblical text, 200,000 years ago was whenever they supposedly, the Adam and Eve thing happened and no longer were human beings. That was when human beings were like, well, because you created this deadly sin, you're only going to live for 80 years now. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Any evidence that we have to point towards creation is always exciting. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny how the more science looks into things, the closer they come to finding this. You know what I'm saying?
Finding God.
Pretty much.
I don't know. Finding a creator.
That's not how science works.
Well, I mean, you got simulation theory as well.
Sure that's not how science works.
Well, you got this, but I mean, they're coming around to simulation theory because they're like, it's starting to become a little more far-fetched for Big Bang to be the cause of everything.
Well, I just think it's funny that anytime they find any of these anomalies, and they're like, well, it was aliens. Yeah. It's like, well, that doesn't mean that it wasn't some type of creator or some type of genetic experiment.
Or interdimensional beings or things like that.
Yeah.
And I even wonder, like, you have so many people, like, with musicians and artists and politicians and all of that. We might not believe in it. We might find it as a joke. But they do. And a lot of them get this power and they get riches beyond what we can even fathom. And they put the symbolism of these occult things that they believe in, especially nowadays in modern times, into what, like, the artists especially, they'll show you out front, like, this is what I'm into. This is what I believe in. They'll all talk about making a Faustian pact pretty much to get to where they are. And then you have a lot of them working in close ties with these people in government. And then you have them getting together in the whole Bohemian Grove area.
Worshiping Moloch.
Yeah. And
what did you say? I'm sorry.
Worshiping Moloch.
Worshiping
the owl. Moloch.
Okay.
The owl thing.
I don't think we can blame mullets on the government conspiracy.
Billy Ray Cyrus, man, he was behind it all.
I'm currently rocking a mullet right now.
See?
That's just pure bad decision, right?
No, man, I'm a huge Theo Vaughn fan.
Yeah, Theo Vaughn's fantastic. I enjoy his comedy. I saw him live in Atlanta. So I didn't know who he was. This is before he rose to I guess comedic power. He had just released a Netflix special and he was touring on that material, and that he was the funniest person I've ever seen live. He told a joke about how his job was to keep hamsters. He was selling hamsters at a fair. It's like, what the fuck? How did you get in the situation? He's talking about like the fair, like the hamsters jumping out of the back of the truck, and him having to explain like why he lost all the hamsters. It's there's no way.
I hope they study his brain at some point in time because it's just magic. It's magic the things that man thinks.
My favorite joke of his is when he's talking about, y'all know who Eddie Bravo is that goes on Joe Rogan every now and then, the real serious conspiracy theorist. He's talking about how he's like a deaf Jack Russell Terrier, because he'll just like start going, yip, 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 and then he'll just run away and you can't bring him back. He just keeps going. He can't hear you.
That's where he's at. It's fun. It's funny seeing those people, man. People who just operate differently, and then he's able to find his ability to be an entertainer, and that it's great he can capitalize on that.
But like, so with what people are seeing, like what I've seen, and people I've talked to online, and the things that they've seen, I believe them. We got the Schnitzel boys and thinking they're going to take over with these relics and things like that. You have all these artists with the Faustian packs. You have these government officials that are starting to get into these kind of like going to like art shows and collecting art from people that are practicing in the occult. If it's not something that's real, are we creating it ourselves with our minds? Like, is it coming back to? Well, I mean, I know, but I'm saying like these people
I was
really
giving
do
another
believe
example. The music industry, they use
that's what I was talking about earlier.
Symbolism. Doja Cat just got into a lot of shit here recently because of her portrayal of that in her latest video.
I'm not. I don't know who that is. I'm not up with the times. I very much live in a mid-Atlantic reggae music bubble, and there's nothing else.
Any of the big pop celebrities now, they all do some kind of occult symbolism in their videos. All of them, every single one does now, and they're the ones that are. Yeah, she's doing it too. Like Beyonce, all of them, they got some kind of occult symbolism that they put in that. And
so the mullet is the occult symbol.
There was a Lana Del Rey concert here recently, and a shockwave went through the entire crowd and knocked a bunch of people down. And it was just like, wow. They had 3 different camera angles of the shockwave, and they played it over and over again. And they're just like, we have no idea. I mean, we're talking like rows and rows of people were knocked down.
I do know who that is. That she did a cover of a Sublime song. I don't
Summertime.
remember which one it's on my head. Summertime. There you go.
Doing time.
She did a pretty good job with that one. I'll have to check out that video. I saw. I think I've ventured into current music like twice over the last couple of years, and I think I heard a Keith Urban song and decided I just can't do this anymore. He's from Australia. Why is he singing about living in a small town America? He's a liar, and I can't do that anymore. And then it was something my daughter played, and then I watched a video of a Travis Scott concert where he's telling people to murder people in the crowd.
Well, that's insane. Like, those people. He told them to rage out, and those people trampled each other and pushed themselves and suffocated each other. I mean, that's another, like, one of those situations where it's like herd mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Well, is that what
haunted now?
Is that what it is, though? Like, are we, like, the things people are seeing, are we just at herd mentality and manifesting it ourselves then?
I believe that is more likely than anything. I think that when we get scared and when we don't know things, our brain fills in the gap. And if we already have the idea that, hey, maybe there's an old bearded guy with chains around his neck, we know like someone else saw it. Why can't I see it? And then, add it. I mix in a little sprinkle of capitalism. Now you've got a haunted hotel. Guess what? It's good for business. You know what I mean? Now people are going there wanting to see a ghost. Yeah. Then that happens.
Tourism.
I'm sorry?
Tourism.
Yeah, there you go. Horrorism, I guess. That's terrible. You can't say that. Horrorism definitely sounds like you're going to meet hookers.
But a lot of these things people have been seeing for centuries now. So, I mean, like the lore has been set, I guess, and we're just, I guess, products of our environment then. But if that's the case, do we possess the power to stop it then? Like with the people that are seeing the shadow people or the ghosts that they're interacting with?
My question is how so let's say it is spiritual, right? Like how do people like select? You know what I mean? Like how do okay. Well, we've decided that Bonnie in her little red hat, she's gonna go on forever. And she's just gonna haunt the fuck out of these people. She's gonna move their car. Like, how do you what's the rules behind ghosts? How do they end up as a ghost? And that to me is what is like the fascination behind all of it. And if ghosts are real, would they be able to win a fight against Bigfoot?
No. Because they're not composed of matter. Like they couldn't Bigfoot. I don't know.
Well, maybe they could be like inhaled and then they could attack through the brain. Like that one anime. Do you remember there was like an anime where like the dude could either fight in the physical realm or he could possess them into their brains and fight them mentally to beat them? Maybe it's kind of like that. I forgot the name of it. It was a really cool show.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great concept.
Yeah. If he knew he couldn't beat them physically, he would just like possess them and then like attack them in the dream world or the dream state. It was really cool.
That's such a dark Pokemon attack. Possess him.
I just Krugered that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, and then I like the idea of ghosts choosing to be dicks. And just being Freddy Krueger. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
You built your house on top of where I was buried at. Guess what? I'm going to make a portal to hell right here.
I can understand why, like, the Native American spirits were pissed. Because it's not enough that while they were alive, we took their land, but then they die and we take their land again. That's fucked up.
Yeah, plus the whole the waves.
I totally get their menacing.
Just wipe people out. Smallpox was so good. It just killed everybody. Yeah, and then the people who survived had to face the conquistadors and some good old American ingenuity.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that kind of stuff because I've seen some things that I just cannot explain. Like, we were all in one room, and then all of the kids' toys started going off by themselves. And, like, after my parents, my dad and my stepmom left, all the toys just stopped at the same time, making noise. Like, I don't understand that. Nobody was in the room to cause them to go off. Nobody touched them. And as soon as they left, they stopped.
They're all like religious people, right? I mean, you guys came from like pretty religious background, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that was the Spirit's way of saying like, y'all brought the Holy Spirit in here. We're not doing this shit. Just turn on all the electronics, ignore the old people till they leave.
Yeah.
Get back to haunting Dan.
Yeah, Dan is ours. There was like an instance where I was playing guitar one time and I was hearing banging on the walls. And then, like, inside the house, not outside. And then as soon as I stopped, the banging on the walls stopped. And then, like I said, our baby monitors would pick up just weird noises that weren't just, like, a normal interference. Like, it's just, like, making all kinds of racket that wouldn't like picking up a radio station or somebody's telephone. Because I used to do that as a kid. I don't know if I ever told y'all that, but I found a way to like take my walkie-talkies and like I took like aluminum foil and like put them on it and stuff, and I could point them at my neighbor's like telephone poles, and I could pick up his phone calls, and I used to spy on them like that.
I remember that. I do remember that.
I had a headset. Well, I didn't have it. My cousin had it. It was at his house, but his dad was like, "Dude, you take that off. You listen to my phone calls." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm 7."
Right.
Yeah, it's weird the way. I wonder how they fixed that problem.
See, my thing about that house was always there was so much negative energy in there that rational, normal people would go in there and they would just lose their minds. And that was something that, yeah, and like I can say like there was definitely some type of energy in that house, but I like Dan said, I can't ever explain it. It's just, you know.
Well, I do know
I always enjoyed the house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I never got the there was one incident where that lady screamed at me pretty ferociously. But other than that, like I never picked up on anything crazy. I just enjoyed the madness that was at that house, and maybe that's why I don't see ghosts, because I enjoy that whole nonsense and people that usually people are put off by, I guess.
Well, that's the one thing that it talks about is like from the research that I've done is the more negative you are towards it, the more that it feeds off of that. And I'm wondering if you just like I watched the show The Ghost Files, and one of the guys on there is a believer and the other one is a skeptic, and the whole time he was just talking straight shit to all the ghosts and punking them out and making fun of them. And he doesn't have a problem. Like he tries to invite, like, come on, possess me, fight me, ghost. And the whole time he's just making fun of them. And I'm wondering if that's the key to that, is like either just ignoring it or just laughing at them the whole time and just making them feel like they're a joke, if they do exist.
Hey, ghost, it's your boy.
Yeah, it's your boy, demon.
You look like your mom was a groupie at a Three Door Down concert. Doesn't remember who that was.
Man, you suck so bad you couldn't even get the afterlife correct, you know? Like that kind of talk
right?
to him.
You couldn't even move on to heaven or hell. You're stuck here in this shithole.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm about to take my pants off, so you're going to be the one that's going to be haunted.
Imagine that jackass that has to go to work every day for the whole afterlife. He really got the shit into the stick.
He had the heart attack in the bathroom.
His alarm clock is constantly going off for all of eternity to wake up and go to work.
You gotta go haunt.
I got a fun office story for you, man. So I had a corporate gig for a little while. I was doing sales for a company, and I was the only blue collar person in that building, and it was like I shouldn't have been there. And the bathroom, so I would go use the bathroom because I would hit my sales quota like I don't know within the first hour or two, and I would just have to fuck off for a little while, so I wasn't getting paid any extra, right? And I would go in the bathroom, and man, there was two shitters, and there's the urinals and stuff. I would go in the far one, and I would just close the door, and no one would go in there. It's like people would go in the bathroom all the time, but no one used my toilet because I shut the door. People are weird in those office environments. I couldn't imagine being stuck there, dude. I was at a Subway, and this lady ordered a 9-inch sub. And,
what?
Yeah, right. And I'm standing there, and like these people are explaining, like, well, we either have the foot long, we have the 6-inch. I can't ring you up for a 9-inch. I want a 9-inch. You do 9 inches. Like, no, that's not how this works. I don't know. Maybe I was the only one paying attention to what was going on, but like I was another one of those moments where I'm sitting there thinking, like, I know I'm not crazy. Like, this is happening. No one else is bothered by this woman just holding up the line. Ordering that's
yeah.
That's got to be a horrible place to haunt, man. Like the librarian in Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
Just stuck telling people to be quiet. Oh, what a miserable way to spend the rest of your soul. You could die in a baseball field or something, At least get a good 20.
I know, right? I hope that my eternity spent being electrocuted. I think that would be badass.
Being
That's like a
electrocuted.
metal ass way to go. Yeah. Somebody walks in and just sees me frying in the middle of a big old puddle of blood. Like, they're gonna be fucked up forever. You know what I'm saying?
Peace out, bro.
even like after the building's been destroyed because you're haunting it. You're just sitting there in the middle of the woods. Hey, what's up?
You would think that like there would be ghosts that like a ghost flushing a toilet. Every single human that's ever existed has gone to the bathroom. That's never the case. Or just like you never have them in your kitchen just like making a roast or something like that. Ghost roast.
I don't think I'd tell anybody if I just saw someone in there cooking in my kitchen, dude. I would tell somebody if ghosts are trying to kill me, though. I think I'm crazy. They're gonna think I'm crazy for a good reason.
It's funny on that show.
Compartmentalize that.
It's funny on that show we were talking about Ghost Files. One episode they're in a penitentiary and they're like, "Hey guys, you know you're dead. You don't have to stay here anymore. Like you can just walk through those walls and just head on out of here."
Such a good joke. It's such a good joke. It's like they're stuck, like they can't swim from Alcatraz or something like that. It's like, well, no, you can still float.
You can just float on out of here. Right? You're not stuck here. You don't have to stay here. It's okay.
Those poor bastards, man. So institutionalized they can't be their cell block.
Dude, that's fucked up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's the idea that you could just die and that's just where you're stuck at. Yeah, I'd rather believe in heaven than just being stuck in purgatory somewhere. Just sitting there watching people eat Oreos and you can't eat them.
Unless I was torturing people that I wanted to torture, like, and I could do funny stuff while I'm haunting or something like that. That would be worth it to me.
It's so dark, dude. You die torturing people, so now you get to spend eternity torturing their souls. Dude, that sucks so bad to be that person.
That's a belief in. I think that's a belief in Santeria or something. One of those like dark, like Caribbean religions that like when you kill somebody or something like that, you want to torture them to where they fear you, so that way they service you in their afterlife or something like that. It's freaking terrible, man.
Man, I don't want nobody in the afterlife, dude. I want everybody to just fuck right on off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had enough people on this planet. I'm good. In the afterlife, I want to be alone.
Yeah, just let me be a butterfly.
We're going to talk about heaven, man. Like, everybody just FOs straight up.
Yeah. You get to pick it out, too, man.
If people haunt
anybody, go ahead.
If people haunt in our generation, it's going to be like people cutting us off in traffic or like standing in line for lottery tickets, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be people who died because they were looking at their phones when they were walking downstairs.
Or like slumped over at the bus stop. That's going to be a majority of them because the majority of them, that's how they died.
It's just so cold outside. They freeze to death. And they're stuck in Cleveland forever.
Oh,
what a terrible place to die.
Yeah.
Oh, well, all right. So talk about the worst places to be stuck. Like if you had to pick a city to not haunt, like which one would it be? Where would you avoid?
Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit. Just you think the ghost population is just so dense in Detroit?
What's the city that just now rose to like the worst city? Starts with a P.
St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis is pretty bad too.
St. Louis. I know. I don't know.
Portland's really rough too.
Portland's
probably got some fun stuff going on though.
Dude, Portland decided they were going to legalize drugs, and then that just went to a straight madhouse. Like it's mad there.
I was just out there not that long ago. It's pretty neat city, dude.
Have you been there since they legalized all the drugs?
It's 2 years ago, man.
They unlegalized it.
I'm sorry?
They unlegalized everything. Like they tried to do what they did in the show The Wire, like and just have a spot where everybody could do whatever, and they're like, it'll just fix itself, but it didn't work, and they're like, this was a really bad idea, guys. We made the city a lot worse.
There were fentanyl zombies everywhere.
That was such an interesting show. That, like, I haven't watched all of it, but I did see that episode where they're just kidnapping fucking drug dealers, and just like, here, have this grocery, and it looked like paradise. I was like, oh, that's great. That's all I need to see. I'll move on with my life. I've spent enough time in Baltimore to know that it's just it doesn't end good.
I definitely wouldn't want to haunt any of those like southern armpit states. Like, I wouldn't want to be in like Texarkana, Arkansas, or like Louisiana. Other than New Orleans might be all right. Or South Carolina. South Carolina. That's the worst.
Dude, have y'all gone to Georgia at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I've been to Atlanta.
Georgia, they have like these big billboards, and they have the death toll on the road. It's like, so far, 75,000 people have been murdered on this road.
Jesus.
It's terrible. I mean, my buddy, we went down there for some training one time. This guy, Hammy, we were just watching it. We went down there. It's like 3 weeks later we came back, and the number was up so much higher than what it was when we went down there.
When I went to
Atlanta,
like no, like the death toll on the roads, like I-85 and I-75.
Texting and driving killed you. You know what I mean?
I was about to say, man, like, holy shit.
When we went to Atlanta on I-80, I think it was I-75, a semi-truck crashed on an overpass, and it had toilets it was carrying. All the toilets were falling onto the highway below it and just smashed in the cars, and they were all piling into each other. It was insane.
Yeah, Georgia. I don't want to go there. I don't want to haunt Georgia. I don't want to haunt Alabama.
It's hot.
I don't want to be. Yeah, you imagine just being humid all the time with ghosts, dude?
I'll tell you where I'd love to be a ghost. Right? Florida with the rest of those lunatics. That'd be a great place to haunt.
Florida man probably would know how to legitimately fight you, though. That's the thing.
Well, they're on enough meth to see you.
Yeah.
Their eyes are vibrating at the right frequency.
Well, they're never going to die all the meth they're on.
Yeah.
Their bodies will carry on for well after they're dead.
They're going to drive themselves to the funeral home. With a car they built themselves.
Remember that Ray Stevens song where he talked about how his like aunt sat up at her funeral or whatever, his uncle? That's Florida people.
Nah, but I remember the song where like he was at church and put the squirrel in his pants or something like that.
Who is this?
Ray Stevens.
Ray Stevens. I'm not familiar with Ray Stevens.
He sang The Streak. They call him The Streak.
Oh,
best thing on 2 feet.
Ray
yeah,
Stevens.
that guy.
There you go. I know who that is now. Ghost would explain a lot of Florida's problems. I think possession. Yeah, like you're right. I mean, there's such an old population there. People are dying all the time.
Heavily on medications.
You know what I mean? Like you come across that, you're like, okay, I died. 4 hours earlier, I was in a road rage incident. Guess what? I got the plates.
Right.
Boom. We're eating someone's face, and that dude's spending the rest of his life in prison. That to me is more logical than it's just hot down there. the heat messes with people.
Yeah. Or like the story about that guy that broke about Alex Rodriguez using steroids. That like the dude that was like on coke and he was like addicted to tanning beds and stuff like that. And they happen to just like put on, I can't remember if like A-Rod left all the documents and stuff, or his like dude left the documents at the tanning bed salon, or
he
like
did.
The guy and like he had like a fake disguise he put on to like somebody like took his legal team took him back, and he put on like the stupidest disguise to like get them back so he could release them to the public. That story's hilarious.
That dude, well, it's just Florida fuckery, man. Everyone's a crook. Yeah, it's everyone's got to hustle. Someone's always trying to take your money. But that dude, he wasn't even a real doctor. His dad was a doctor.
I'm a doctor by proxy.
He just decided he was going to call himself a doctor.
It's my birthright.
Steroids. The reason A-Rod got busted so this guy had there was this dude who would just like he was just hanging around. The guy was addicted to tanning booths. He was like security for the guy who was giving everybody steroids, and he missed a payment. It's like the guy who was doing all the cocaine, giving everybody steroids, didn't pay this dude like $20, and he's got all pissed off about it being 20. You know, you didn't pay me $20, so he just went in and took everything out. That's a crazy story. There's a great Billy Corbin documentary on that called Screwball.
Yep.
And if you get the chance to watch that, I highly recommend it. Billy Corbin is the guy, not the Smashing Pumpkins guy.
No.
The guy who did Cocaine Cowboys.
Yeah.
Okay.
He also does a show with Dan Le Batard out of Miami called Only in Miami, where they talk about just general Miami fuckery.
Yeah.
And it's good guy to listen to. Well, boys, you guys got anything else tonight?
No, I think that's a wrap, bud.
Okay. Well, it was good talking with you guys. Hopefully we'll be back again next week to have episode 3 or 4. We'll determine what happens then. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. And if you guys wouldn't mind hanging on for just a second.
Sounds good.